So Microsoft just unveiled two new chips. They first unveiled the Microsoft MAIA, which is an AI accelerator. So obviously pretty important if you are an Nvidia or AMD shareholder, as both those semiconductor companies release GPU solutions for the high performance market and for the AI market. Next, Microsoft also unveiled the Cobalt, a CPU based on ARM architecture. And obviously, if you are an AMD investor or maybe an Intel investor, you want to stay tuned, as obviously those players provide a nice amount of CPU solutions for the clouding space. So let's take a closer look in today's episode. All right, so as I am recording, the market is about to close, and we can see Microsoft is sitting at roughly $369. Its 52-week high is roughly 373. So we are pretty close to those levels. Year to date, the stock has done amazing, up 57. But now I do want to take a closer look at those semiconductor companies that I just discussed. AMD is down roughly 1.7% right now, sitting at 117. And if we take a closer look, Nvidia is sitting right now at roughly $488, down roughly 1.7%. Finally, your favorite semiconductor company, Intel, is actually up 3% today. I do believe Intel has some other news where a board member who seems to have a solid track record has bought roughly $2.5 million of shares. This is, I do believe, closing to the 52-week high of Intel. So congratulations to all Intel investors. But like
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
Mentioned today, we are going to take a closer look at Microsoft, and they did have an event today called Microsoft Ignite, where they did talk a lot about kind of new solutions happening in the technology space here in Microsoft in general. So the company unveiled two new chips. The first chip is and obviously they're going to use this for their Microsoft Azure platform, their clouding platform. And the first one is MAIA, which is an AI accelerator optimized for artificial intelligence, AI task, and generative AI, right? We are seeing that Microsoft is becoming a really strong player in the AI space with kind of their partnerships with OpenAI and bringing AI solutions to a variety of things like Bing to Copilot happening on Windows. The second one is Microsoft unveiled the Azure Cobalt CPU, which is an ARM-based processor tailored to run general purpose compute workloads on Microsoft clouds. They do mention that these chips will start to roll out next year to Microsoft's data center, initially powering the company's services such as Microsoft Copilot or Azure OpenAI services. So this is something very similar that we've seen other cloud providers do, right? We've seen Amazon with their Graviton and also with their Trainium and Inferentium chips, where they're using them for not only internal loads, but sometimes external customer loads. And we've seen Google Cloud kind of use the tensor processor for AI workloads. So Microsoft is really known as a software company, but they believe that now they are a systems company. So they need to focus on both hardware and software together so that they can make even a better solution. We've actually heard this very similar from one of my favorite semiconductor companies, Nvidia. Nvidia has always talked about, hey, look, the strength of our hardware comes from our software solution. So it does seem like that's the future of the tech market right now. What is also pretty interesting is Microsoft, not only did they bring their own solutions, but they kind of wanted to showcase that, hey, look, we're partnering up with our current semiconductor solution companies, Nvidia and AMD, and releasing new solutions. So they did mention that right now they are on the preview for their new NC H100 V5 virtual machines, which are built using, obviously, you guessed it, NVIDIA's H100 Tensor Core GPUs. We'll take a closer look at that in a bit. They also mentioned that Microsoft will add the latest NVIDIA H200 Tensor Core GPU to its fleet next year to support larger model inferencing with no increase in latency. And the H200, this is something we talked about in another episode. I'll post it up right here if you want to watch that video next. The H200 is just an improved version of the H100 with bigger memory and faster memory bandwidth, right? Then the company also did announce some pretty cool news with the AMD. They announced that they will be adding AMD's MI300X accelerator virtual machines to Azure. Now, these machines are going to be interesting. And again, this is probably the first public cloud server provider to announce the use of AMD's next generation GPUs. All right, so let's take a closer look at that new NCH100 V5 virtual machines. But before we go there, I do want to say thank you for the support. We just hit 28,600 subs on this channel. I'm trying to hit 30,000 by the end of the year. So if you haven't, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. I do have weekly exclusive videos on the semiconductor market. I just dropped a deep dive on ARM's earnings, so make sure to click join to learn more. Special offer at fool.com/Jose, free newsletter at josenajarro.substack.com, and free semiconductor news at semiconductorwatch.com. All right, so now let's take a closer look at that new Nvidia NCH100 V5 virtual machines. So this is a little bit different from the previous machines that we heard Microsoft has. So Microsoft has the ND series, and the ND series is a huge kind of supercomputers where you can use numerous H100 GPUs. The main difference with these are visual machines where maybe a software developer, a company can is only looking to use maybe 1 to 2 H100 GPUs for maybe smaller AI workloads, smaller kind of large language models that are probably below $10 billion parameters or so. This is what you're going to be using, right? The H100 V5 virtual machines. What I did find pretty interesting about this is this, unlike the ND machine, which is that huge supercomputers, those are using Intel Sapphire Rapids, but these are actually using 4th generation AMD EPYC CPUs. So definitely a big win for AMD here. It definitely shows like these are better for maybe AI and also high performance computing workloads. They do mention that these NCH100 V5 series are currently in public preview and available in South Central US regions and will expand to additional regions in the coming months. Next, like we mentioned, Microsoft is also making MI300X virtual machines, and these GPUs are going to be a little bit different. They're not going to be like those big supercomputers like the ND where you can use hundreds and maybe even thousands of Nvidia GPUs. It does seem like these virtual machines are available for 8 times AMD Instinct's MI300 GPUs. Obviously, and what I find interesting about this one is the previous one where we were looking at the H100, Microsoft selected AMD for their Genoa CPU. But here for the AMD Instinct MI300X, they actually have selected 4th generation Intel Xeon Scalable processors for these virtual machines. And for the networking side, they are using the Quantum 2 Infinite Band solutions from Nvidia. They do mention that right now the ND MI300X V5 is available for early access and part of the Azure portfolio. Now, if we go back to Microsoft, they actually shared some great discussions on how they evolved and created this hardware and software. More importantly, the MAIA 100 AI accelerator. The great thing is they have this partnership with OpenAI. So OpenAI has actually provided a lot of feedback on what type of workloads they're using and how they would be using this accelerator. So Microsoft is able to get that data and kind of create a chip that is perfect for the AI market. So obviously that does bode well, and I do believe right now it's going to be the 1st generation. But they're not. And let me just say this: as a semiconductor investor, I'm not worried for Nvidia. I'm not worried for AMD because these two players continue to evolve and continue to innovate. But I do believe this is going to help out Microsoft bring some form of maybe efficiency in certain cost levels in certain markets. Just like any semiconductor generation, this is the first, and Microsoft is already designing 2nd generation versions of the MAIA and the Cobalt CPU. So one company that I do believe benefits a nice amount is ARM, and I do believe that that is the true winner with this news. So like I mentioned, I do have a deep dive on my membership program on ARM and their latest earnings. I also did a 101 deep dive on ARM earlier when it went IPO, and later today I will be dropping a video on my semiconductor podcast channel, so make sure to check that out. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.